I'm not sugarcoating anything today. The Patriots are moving into the part of the offseason where one small detail can turn into a huge decision. An undrafted rookie is trying to force his way into the picture. A receiver plenty of people have thrown into trade chatter could make the offense rethink how it uses him. And the pass rush needs an answer before it becomes a real hole. No built-in excuses, no weak takes, no waiting until September to wake up. In Foxborough, potential is not enough. It has to become a role, production, and an advantage. Hit that like button and subscribe because today, the pressure is coming hard. Peter Manuma is not coming into New England with a red carpet, national cameras tracking every step, and a guaranteed roster spot sitting there for him. He is coming through the toughest door, a rookie minicamp tryout, an undrafted free agent contract, and that raw NFL reality where every rep can be the difference between staying alive or fading out of the conversation. And you know what? I love stories like this because they force a player to show exactly who he is with nothing polished up. Manuma came out of Hawaii with the kind of production you expect from a player who always seems to live near the football. 49 games, 280 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and 15 passes defended. That is not nothing. And he also ran a 4.47 in the 40 during the pre-draft process, so we are not talking about some slow, limited safety who needs a mountain of excuses. We are talking about somebody with speed, volume, experience, and captain energy. But this is where it really matters for the Patriots. He is not trying to sell a nice little story. He is trying to earn a job. After New England traded Marte Mapu, the personal punt protector role opened up. And that special teams job is not decoration. Jeremy Springer describes that player almost like the quarterback of the unit, somebody who organizes, communicates, sees pressure, and has to keep everybody aligned when the snap affects field position, rhythm, and the emotional control of the game. Springer has already praised Manuma for being in control of his body, for his movement, and especially for his voice. Vocal, confident, present. That matches what Manuma himself says is his strength, communication, and football IQ. And for an undrafted player trying to kick the door down, that is gold. Because sometimes a guy does not make the roster first as a defensive star. He makes it because the staff trusts him in the dirty, technical moments most people never even notice. And Kevin Byard III is in that same room, a veteran safety, 3-time Pro Bowler, serving as a daily source of details. Manuma said he is picking up little pieces from meetings and practices. That is the right mindset. Don't walk in acting like something already belongs to you. Walk in asking, absorbing, competing. To me, the question is not whether Manuma is already locked in. The question is sharper than that. If he gives you communication, special teams value, and physicality, which veteran or back-end roster player is going to justify taking that space away from him? And that story connects straight into the offense because there is another player in New England who does not need pretty talk. He needs the right usage. DeMario Douglas is in a strange spot, and I'll say it straight. If the Patriots ever seriously thought about treating this guy like a disposable piece, they better rethink that fast, because an offense trying to grow with Drake Maye cannot throw away cheap explosiveness, short area separation, and creativity in space just because the receiver room got crowded. Yes, the group has strong names. A.J. Brown is safe, Romeo Doubs too. Mac Hollins and Kyle Williams seem to be in another category inside that competition. But Douglas? Douglas is the kind of player who looks like a luxury when he is used wrong. Used the right way, he becomes a weekly problem for defenses. And what he said about Josh McDaniels stands out. Douglas said McDaniels told him to be more savvy, to be sharper in a good way, not to stay trapped only on what is written on the page, to put his own style into the route. That is not some random minicamp detail. That is a coordinator saying, "I do not want you robotic, I want you alive inside the design." That kind of conversation can change a player's role. In 2025, Douglas was not a disaster. Opportunity was the issue. He sat behind almost everybody at different points, showed up more as a hidden weapon, had flashes, including against the Saints, but never got the steady workload that matched his talent. And that is where the fan frustration hits. Why have a player who changes angles, accelerates through the middle of the field, and creates yards after the catch if you are going to leave him waiting for scraps? Now, with McDaniels apparently more comfortable with what Douglas can be, New England has a chance to fix the usage without needing an outside move. And that matters for Drake Maye. A.J. Brown commands heavy respect. Doubs can work as a reliable target. Hollins brings size and experience. But Douglas brings a different texture. He forces linebackers to run where they do not want to run. He turns a short throw into an annoying gain. He gives the quarterback a quick answer when pressure comes. This debate is not sentimental, it is functional. If you trade Douglas, you better be sure the return is worth more than the flexibility he gives the offense. I do not see that certainty easily, especially because players like this get more dangerous when the coordinator stops trying to shove them into a box and starts designing space for them to breathe. So New England has a decision: sell before seeing the best version, or put the player in position to prove the best is still ahead. I know which path looks smarter, and I also know this fan base runs out of patience fast when offensive talent walks out the door and blows up somewhere else. But the offense is not the only place where a bad calculation can charge interest. On the other side of the ball, the conversation gets heavier, more urgent, and a lot less comfortable. The Patriots' pass rush is flashing red, and I am not covering for anybody here. New England lost the Super Bowl to Seattle while watching the pressure gap show up in a brutal way. The Seahawks finished that night with a 6-1 sack advantage. That is not some random stat. That is trench humiliation. That is the kind of thing that gets into the film room, into the meeting room, into the pride of the locker room. The offseason had to attack two wounds: protect Drake Maye better and increase the ability to take down the opposing quarterback. A.J. Brown raises the offensive ceiling, no doubt. But on the defensive edge, the answer still feels incomplete. Clavon Chason left in free agency. Dre'Mont Jones came in. If that is just name-for-name movement without real gain, New England still owes an answer. And that is where the script gets dangerous. Harold Landry III is projected to be an important piece, but there is physical concern around the knee. Jesus cost real draft capital because the Patriots moved up in the second round using 3 picks to get him. But the player spent the spring off the field, had an off-season procedure, dealt with injuries, and is still the only unsigned second-round pick. For a franchise trying to act like a contender, that is unacceptable. I am not saying Jackas cannot become a player. The college talent is there. He had 11 sacks for Illinois in 2025. The problem is New England needed him in the building, learning the system, getting reps, speeding up the adjustment. A rookie who needs to contribute early does not get lost time handed back to him. And when the roster is already thin at the position, every day sitting still adds pressure. Behind Landry and Jones, you look at Elijah Ponder, who had 4 sacks as a rookie, Jaden Swinson, who still has a lot more to prove, and other depth names. Can you like internal development? Sure. But liking internal development does not mean pretending the roster is protected. Ethan Hurwitz summed up the uncertainty well. If Jackas signs and Landry gets past the physical issues, the room can offer a lot. If Swinson and Ponder take a jump, the unit can surprise people. But all of that lives in if territory. And a defense that wants to go toe-to-toe in the AFC cannot live only on if off the edge. That is why names like Joey Bosa and Jadeveon Clowney show up as possibilities New England should be monitoring aggressively. Bosa had 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles in 2025 with the Bills. Clowney had 8.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 2 recoveries with the Cowboys. Those are veterans with a history of impact, exactly the kind of insurance that can turn a nervous room into a competitive one. If I were the front office, the question would be simple. Do you trust this group enough to face AFC quarterbacks in January? Or are you trying to save now just to pay more later? Because quarterback pressure is not a luxury. It is defensive oxygen. Without edge pressure, the coverage gets tired, the plan falls apart, and the fan base is stuck watching the same movie that hurt in the Super Bowl. And when we talk about Jackas, the story did not stop at concern. There was a new signal. It does not fix everything, but it changes the temperature of the conversation. Jesus showed up working hard in the weight room, including a video of himself squatting serious weight on his Instagram story. And I will give the positive side its credit. For anyone worried about his physical availability, seeing the rookie moving, training, and showing strength is not irrelevant. It suggests he is trying to get to camp in position to compete. But the pressure still has to stay firm. Lifting weight in July is encouraging. It does not replace a signed contract. It does not replace spring snaps. It does not replace defensive installation, communication, block recognition, and timing against NFL players. Jackas still has 2 challenges at once. First, he needs to resolve the contract situation with the Patriots. Second, he needs to make up ground inside the defense after missing every spring practice. For any rookie, that would already be heavy. For an edge rusher picked with a real investment, at a position where the roster needs immediate help, the weight doubles. That is why I do not buy the lazy read that everything is fine just because a good-looking video surfaced. I am also not going to swing to the other extreme and treat the player like a lost cause. The competitive reality is in the middle. Jackas can still be an important answer, but New England has to stop letting this story breathe like the calendar is on its side. Look at the current depth. Draymond Jones on one side, Harold Landry third trying to stay whole on the other, then Elijah Ponder, Braden Swinson, Jesse Luketa, and Quintavious Hutchins. There are names, yes, but quantity is not the same thing as confidence, especially when the goal is not just surviving September. The goal is getting back to football that scares serious teams. Patriots fans, I want your read with no excuses. Does that jackass video make you feel better? Or do you still demand New England go find another edge before camp starts heating up? Because I can see the promising side, but in Foxborough, promise without pressure turns into an excuse, and this roster is past the point of selling excuses. Put it all together, and today's picture is clear. The Patriots have pieces fighting to become solutions, but they also have areas where too much patience can turn into a mistake. Manuma is trying to earn space with his voice and special teams value. Douglas needs to be used as a weapon, not treated like leftovers. The edge needs help, and Jackass has to turn training into real presence. New England cannot wait until the season is knocking on the door to find out who is ready. If you want to follow this pressure every day, subscribe to Patriots Club fans, hit the like button, and stay right here, because Foxborough is not asking for promises, it is demanding answers.